so that comes from the title of my PhD thesis and the dissertation that I wrote. In that title, I use that phrasing, feed the people and you'll never go hungry. This is a quote that comes from a well-respected elder who, within the Stalo Nation, Chief Richard Malloway. He's passed away, but his legacy continues to have impact within our communities. And I encountered his insights in some research that Dr. Joanne Archibald did, where she was interviewing elders within the community. And this phrase came up from Richard Malloway. And it struck me as a profound quote because he was talking about many different layers of our economic philosophy. He was referring to, in a literal sense, the fact that traditionally we conducted our economies and all of our economic behavior was conducted within ceremony. And so this is sort of the context and the ceremonial feasting that we did and that nations did all up and down the coast of BC and up into Alaska, also referred to as potlatches. These feasts were, in a sense, like marketplaces where we would bring people together, have these gathering ceremonies, and of course there was all the elements of spirituality, of dancing, of sharing food, of speeches and witnessing, but what was actually happening as well was a great deal of economics, of transactions, of passing down property rights. All of these kinds of things were embedded in ceremony. And so this is what I was able to study within my thesis and to speak with elders within my community as well about our feasting practices as being able to shed light on our economic philosophies. And so Richard Malloway's quote is talking about how we literally would feed one another. So, feeding communities far and wide is also a way of feeding the people in a sense of growing and honoring the relationships that we have with one another, and also growing and honoring the relationships we have beyond our human relationships. So, ensuring that our relationships with the environment and Mother Earth and the piece that, in my opinion, has not been or has been somewhat sanitized out of our current economy is anything to do with spirituality. And this is the piece that I found so fascinating in the research that I was doing, is how spirituality permeated everything that we did within the economic space. And this is the piece that I really believe is important to think about when we're wanting to bring back and center Indigenous voices within ways of thinking about not just economics, but actually how do we think about wealth, and how do we think about the purpose of our economies. Not just how do we exchange, but actually really reconsidering why it is we are exchanging. And when I look at our spirituality in ceremony, the reason for exchange is not just the transactions, but it's about nurturing relationships and nurturing relationships well into the future, and really accounting for, the voices of our ancestors in that process.